The Ark of the Covenant was the first object that God commanded Moses to create after giving the law on Mount Sinai. The Lord gave precise instructions. To make a box of acacia wood 2.5 cubits long, 1.5 cubits wide and 1.5 cubits high, to overlay it with pure gold inside and out, to cast 4 gold rings in the corners, to insert poles of acacia wood overlaid with gold to carry the ark, never removing the poles from the rings. The lid, called a capare, place of propitiation, was supposed to be made of pure gold, and on it were 2 cherubs made of gold, looking at each other and overshadowing the place with their wings. God said to Moses, "There I will make myself known to you and speak to you over the mercy seat, in the midst of the 2 cherubim that are above the ark of the testimony, concerning all that I will command the children of Israel through you." The ark was not just a religious symbol, but a place of God's real presence on earth. The throne of the invisible King of Israel, a point of contact between heaven and earth. Inside were placed 2 stone tablets with the 10 Commandments, written with the finger of God, a golden vessel with manna from heaven, and Aaron's rod blossomed with almonds. The ark stood in the Holy of Holies of the tabernacle, behind a curtain where only the high priest could enter, once a year on the Day of Atonement, sprinkling the blood of the sacrifice. The common man was forbidden not only to touch the ark but even to look at it. The Levites from the house of Kohath, who carried the shrine during their travels, had to wait until the priest covered the ark with 3 veils before taking up the poles. When one of the Kehathites, Korah, dared to rebel against Moses and Aaron, claiming the right to approach the shrine, the earth opened up and swallowed him alive along with his family and supporters. The ark accompanied Israel through the wilderness for 40 years, going before the people, leading the way, and as it rose on its way, Moses said, "Arise, O Lord, and your enemies will be scattered." When Israel approached the Jordan, the priests carrying the ark entered the water, and the river stopped, forming a wall 30 kilometers upstream, allowing 2 million people to walk along the dry bottom. During the siege of Jericho, the priests carried the ark around the city for 7 days, and on the 7th day the walls fell at the sound of trumpets and the shouting of the people. But the sanctity of the ark was deadly to those who violated the established rules for handling it. When Israel settled in the Promised Land, the ark was in Shiloh, in the tabernacle, and there it was guarded by the sons of the high priest Elijah, Ophni and Phinehas, depraved priests who despised the sacrifices of the Lord, took the best pieces of meat by force and fornicated with women at the entrance to the tabernacle. God warned through the prophet that both of them would die on the same day, and the house of Elijah would be punished for blasphemy. When the Philistines attacked Israel and defeated their army at Aphek, the elders decided to bring the ark from Shiloh to the military camp, believing that the shrine would automatically give victory. Hophni and Phinehas brought the ark, and the Israelites raised such a shout of joy that the earth trembled. But in battle the Philistines defeated Israel, killed 30,000 foot soldiers, captured the ark, and the 2 sons of Eli died on the same day, as predicted. When the 98-year-old high priest Eli heard that the ark of God had been taken, he fell backwards from his seat, broke his neck, and the Philistines, rejoicing, brought the captured ark to the city of Ashdod and placed it in the temple of their god Dagon as a trophy, demonstrating the superiority of their deity over the God of Israel. The next morning, the priests discovered the statue of Dagon prostrated in front of the ark. They lifted up the idol and put it in its place, but the next morning Dagon was lying in front of the ark again, and this time the head and both arms were cut off and lying on the threshold. The god of the Philistines had been defeated and beheaded by the sanctuary of Israel. Then the Lord struck the inhabitants of Nitrogen with a serious disease, tumours, possibly bubonic plague, and mice that devastated the fields. In a panic, the Azoshan sent the ark to Gath, but the same thing happened there. Pestilence and tumours struck the city. They brought the ark from Gath to Ekron, and the people of Ekron shouted, "They have brought the ark of the God of Israel to us to put us and our people to death." The death rate was so high that the cry of the city rose to the heavens. For 7 months the ark remained in the land of the Philistines, bringing death and destruction to every city where it was placed. Finally, the rulers of the Philistines called together the priests and magi, asking how to get rid of this shrine. They advised making a trespass offering, 5 golden growths and 5 golden mice, according to the number of Philistine cities, to put them in the ark and release it on a new cart pulled by 2 firstborn cows from which the calves were taken. If the cows go towards Israel, contrary to the instinct of returning to the calves, then everything that happens is from the God of Israel. The cows went straight towards Bethsamis, an Israeli town on the border with Philistine territory, lowing from separation from their calves, but not turning off the road. The inhabitants of Bethshemesh were reaping wheat in the valley, and when they saw the ark returning, they rejoiced with great joy. It was a moment of national triumph. The shrine, captured by the pagans, returned home on its own, proving the power of the God of Israel over the gods of the Philistines. The cart with the ark was stopped in the field of a certain Jesus of Bethsamite by a large stone. The villagers dismantled the wooden cart for firewood, slaughtered the cows, and offered a burnt offering to the Lord on that stone, rejoicing at the return of the shrine. But then one of the Bethshemites, perhaps intoxicated by the joy of the feast, perhaps out of simple curiosity, perhaps wanting to make sure that the tablets of the covenant were still inside after 7 months with the Gentiles, went to the ark and looked under the lid. Death was instantaneous. The man who dared to violate the sanctity of the ark fell dead, and others began to fall after him. Perhaps those who also looked inside, perhaps those who touched the shrine without the rite. Perhaps all the inhabitants of the city were punished for allowing desecration. The Bible says, "And he smote the inhabitants of Bethshemesh because they had looked into the ark of the Lord and slew 50,070 of the people." 50,070 people died in one act of curiosity, a number so huge that some interpreters assume a scribe's error or a special way of counting, because Bethsamis was a small city. Others believe that death spread to the surrounding settlements like an epidemic, affecting everyone who was somehow involved in the desecration of the shrine. Still others believe that it was those who looked into the ark who died, and there were indeed thousands of them, a whole crowd of curious people crowding around the shrine. The surviving residents of Bethsamis asked in horror, "Who can stand before the Lord, this holy God? And to whom will he go from us?" They realized that they could not keep the ark. The sanctity of God is too dangerous for sinful people. Touching the shrine without proper reverence means death. The ark turned from an object of joy into a source of horror, from a symbol of victory into a cause of mass death. The Bethshemites sent messengers to the inhabitants of Kiriath Jearim, a city in the mountains, asking them to take the ark. The people of Kiriath Jearim came, took the ark, and brought it to Abinadab's house on the hill, and his son Eleazar was consecrated to keep it holy. The ark stayed there for 20 years, until King David decided to move it to Jerusalem, and this attempt almost ended in a new disaster, when Uzzah, the son of Abinadab, stretched out his hand to hold the swaying ark, and was struck by God on the spot for the audacity of touching the shrine.